If
topic
you
is
think you
sustainable.
can reconcile it, go ahead and talk for half an hour. Mute up. Sink yourself.
Okay, let's discuss.
Go ahead and reconcile it. You know the argument. Still know the
What do you
argument. Let's
mean?
see if you can track. What's the argument?
Yeah, you're trying to say that Umar bin Khattab, God agreed with him on three things, and if God agrees with him on three things, and he's the difference maker, it's the case that if he's a difference maker, then he is partners with Allah, or he's not a difference maker, he's just merely experiencing the occasion, and what do you call it? He doesn't have any free will. So
I'll be back.
I'm just taking the Lewisian account of difference makers. Do you know what the Lewisian account is?
I'm asking you, why do you think it all hangs on difference making regardless? It's not the only thing it hangs on. You realize that, right?
Someone else has a hang on.
Yeah, it comes to what we know as source compatibilism, what it means to actually be able to originate your motives and your desires, number one. It also factors in Tawheed, especially Tawheed Rububiyyah, when it comes to Allah being the complete and sufficient cause, which I've already seen your discussions with Yakavos, you would not allude to Allah not being the complete cause, right? Now, it's not solely about difference making, it's also about specifying the moral form of the act. Do you know what that means?
Specifying the what act?
Yeah, what it means to specify the moral form of the act. For example, if you read Ibn Qayyim says that the slave does not specify anything. Rather, it is Allah alone who specifies the moral form of the act, right? You don't have moral source.
What's more? What does this have to do with Umar bin Khattab and the Huda Lama?
Everything
No, it
matters,
doesn't.
man. It does,
You're
man.
talking about Ibn Qayyim right now and Muradi. I'm trying to just
giving you
know.
a Sola in
I'm trying
reference.
to. I want you to actually steel man the argument. You didn't steel man. You said that's not the representation of
You
the
want me to
argument.
steel
and you
man
just
my
started
own
rambling.
argument, bro? I asked you to steel man it, and you fumbled the bag, and I'm telling you,
And
it's
you
not
said,
solely.
and after you fumbled it, you said you were going to explain it, and you never did. You started talking about a scholar. Like that's not like you're not
I'm
talking
not
about
only
the
talking.
argument. It's completely red hair.
Uthman, I don't think you're tracking, bro. Respectfully. I'm giving you how it doesn't only hinge on difference making. Now, I asked you, what does it mean to specify the moral form of the act? Respectfully, you said you don't know. That's fine. You don't have to know everything.
So what is specifying
Now,
the moral form of the act? What is moral doing over there?
yeah, it's just to say that whatever obtains between A and not A, the slave is specified. Do you understand now?
You're using the word specify. Like what's specify doing over here? Like, are you just saying that between, because presumably, I mean, obviously we reject PEP, so presumably whatever comes about, that's cool. So whatever comes about, right, like some given, desire, motive, whatever he originates, he's going to have guidance control over it, but there's not going to be any regularity control. So, I mean, what's the issue?
When you say originate, qualify what you mean.
That this person, this given agent has some active power, and then he causes it, right?
No. Let's say motives and desires. Does that arise from you, your essay, your being?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to take the position of Omar Kakas that that's ex nihilo or ex materia?
What are motives and desires are like when they're created?
Yeah. Which position do you want to take? Okay.
Yeah, they're created
and Allah creates that of which you acquire. Right?
Okay.
Allah is the disposer of all affairs. So you acquire. Now, replacing origination with acquisition, just so you don't sound like an Ashari, doesn't help you. Because what you're saying is you're borrowing compatibilistic language, which is originate, quote unquote, but that's not what occurs. Because something cannot be causally prior to what Allah creates. So you're not originating anything ex nihilo, bro. Allah creates and disposes it to you.
You think creation and origination are the same thing?
No, we understand that there's a distinction.
So why are you conflating the two? When, like, obviously you asked me, like, does God create this given motive and desire ex nihilo or ex materia? Obviously we don't originate things ex nihilo, right? Or we don't create things ex nihilo. It's going to be something that God does. But we're still immediate causes for some given effect. So then why, so then you hold to the same position, so then you also believe if we just have that position. So then what would be the difference then?
When we asked Apex, and Yakavos was on the live, and he asked Omar Kakas, what do you mean by origination? I am. Right?
Okay, can you answer my question?
We originate ex nihilo, but Allah creates that of which we originate. How does that arise from you? You acquire it, right? Because Allah is the disposer of all affairs. You don't dispose your own affairs. You're not saying you dispose your own affairs, right? You're not saying you specify or determine anything.
What do you mean we don't determine anything? Like we don't bring about our own actions.
Holy shit, bro. You can't be this slow, bro.
You said we don't specify anything. You understand when we talk about difference makers?
Can we go back to what it means to specify?
Wait, hold on. This guy, no, hold on. This guy's so confused. When you say, like, look, this guy hasn't written anything up on, like, difference maker in the Lewisian account. This guy's confused, right? When we talk about the Lewisian account of difference makers, the whole point is that some given cause specifies some given effect. So when we have something like a difference maker, right, we're talking about specification over there, and this can be in correlation with the immediate cause. So, like, how am I confused in asking the right question? Well, can you actually see what I just said?
You're just blabbering on, bro. Do you mind?
Can you steal me
to
what I
get
just
back to-
said? Like, what? No, you're not gonna dodge. Just steal me what I said about difference makers and specify
You
something
need to
like
stop
that.
gaslighting, bro. It's not working. Now,
Continue, but the steelman, Uthman,
Just steal me what I
was
just
able to
said.
adequately respond to him instead of moving away.
well, respectfully, you dodged from me being discussing what it means to specify the moral form of the act, bro. So we need to go back to there. Respectfully, bro, you've dodged from 5 minutes
Just say
ago
you
when
don't.
we were about
Just say you didn't
specifying the moral-
understand. Just say you didn't understand what
I
I just said.
understand fully. We need to go back because you're just.
So then
dodging
steal me what I just said, so I can be,
with
so we can clarify
specifying-
that you did understand. Can you steal me what I just said?
We're talking about Umar ibn Khattab, right? So that's what
Yeah,
we're
and
gonna
you
discuss.
and we were talking about difference makers.
No.
So what did I just say? What did I define? How did I
Did I
define?
say to you how it
I don't
doesn't
understand.
only hinge on difference maker? Why do you think it still hinges on difference maker alone?
No, but
bro?
you were talking about specification of some given effect, and we were talking about that in virtue of difference makers. And you can't steal man it because you didn't understand the response. You don't know what difference makers. You're just larping like causation and like David Lewis. It's really obvious. So can you steal
No,
me what
I'm
I
not
just said?
laughing at anything, bro. Now, can we go
You
back to
are.
Umar ibn Khattab and stick to the substance of the
Don't
argument?
just dodge my question. Just respond. Steal man.
Respectfully, if you're saying that's a dodge, you dodged me 5 minutes ago. So
What did I
stop
dodge on?
gaslighting. Yeah. You don't know what it means to specify the moral form of the act, which is fine. You can't know everything, bro. So what I advise you to do is go and look up that and understand what it means, and in symmetry to us Christians, when we say we do
Can you
specify
respond to my
certain moral
question?
form.
I
When we
didn't
say
actually.
this-
I was like, I actually answered the question. I said, yeah, I don't know what you mean by specifying a moral.
You're
part of
not
action,
even allowing
right?
me to get to the crux. Yeah, you're not even allowing me to get the crux of it. You wanted to
But
have
then
an open dialogue, respectful back and forth, and I'm trying to give you why it doesn't only hinge on difference making, bro. Respectfully, the last time we engaged, you didn't even know what it was, and that's fine again. Just like you don't know what it means to specify
Last
the moral
time,
form of that,
I
you
didn't
can
know
learn
what it
about that
was.
and come back. The thing is, once you do, you're no longer going to be in the position you are. You are going to end up an Ashari, bro, because you're not going to want to violate Tawheed Rububiyyah. Now,
Yeah, so
I
can you
need
steal me what I
need
just
you to-
said?
Listen, bro.
Because you, after you steal me, we can go back.
We gotta have this. Let this conversation move. Apostolic, you told him about that. He asked you a question. You answered, and then he responded to it.
I'm
He's asking
trying
you to
show
steal
the
man.
kid.
He's asking the steal man to
that it
respond. So
doesn't only hinge on difference making alone.
I know that's
Understand?
fine. And we went
Okay.
over it, and then I'm asking you to
So-
steal me what I just said because you said something prior, and then we started talking about, and I started talking about difference making. And I told you why you were confused. I want you to be aware of what the blunder was. So can you just steal me what I just said?
No, there is
Don't
no
dodge.
blunder, and I'm not confused, bro. Unless you want
So
to
then just steal me
reiterate
what I
and
just
assert
said,
what-
and then we can go to the Umar bin Khattab
You
thing.
think
But
there's
just
the
steal me
blunder?
what I
I'll
just
assert
said.
what the blunder is, bro.
Just tell, bro. Can you steal me what I just said?
Can't you still make your own assertion of what you think the blunder is?
Why are you burden shifting? Yo, can you just steal me what I said, and we can go to the Umar bin Khattab thing?
Bro, that's the whole thing we're trying to focus on. I don't understand.
No, but then you
Why-
started diverting. You went on this whole like the moral specification bullshit, and then I went along with it.
Because you said it's
And then
about
you
difference
said-
making, and I've tried to explain to you slowly, step by step, why it solely doesn't rest and hinge on that alone, right? There's other factors, there's other criteria. For example, when we talk about source compatibilism, what it means, right, to pass the criteria on source compatibilism, on moral sourcehood, for example. And then I said to you, do you understand what it means to specify the moral form of the act? Or that is to say, between why A and not A occurred, like what's the sufficient reason? Does it fall back on Allah's decree alone? Or does the creature have the capability to difference make between A and not A? And that is to say, also factoring in what it means to specify the moral form of the act, right? Privation, for example. You don't have these kind of concepts, bro. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
We don't have this kind of. Wait, you're saying we don't have this kind of concept where we can difference make? And what kind of difference make are you using? Because what kind of difference make? You just said we can't account for it. You just said
no, I didn't. I said privation.
yes, you did.
I said again. Do you want to play it back? Privation. This concept we have in Christianity, what it means to be a difference maker, and specify the moral form of your act, and bring about privation. That concept is what I said.
Bring about privation.
Yes, bro. Do you understand what that is?
Privation is an lack or an absence.
Yeah, but do you understand what it means in the Christian, let's say, our position in symmetry to yours?
When you bring about an absence of something, what is that supposed to mean?
Yeah, God pushes us towards the maximally good outcome, supplies us with grace. God remains the first mover at every single point. Your will is efficacious. You difference make between what obtains between A and not A. You, as a Christian, specify the moral form of the act, right? Now, I deprive or give privation towards that maximally good when God pushes me towards the greater good. I bring about the evil act. God sustains and creates the act. Understand? That's what privation is from the Christian standpoint. So,
you said, hold on. So just
yeah, it's fine. There's hope for this, but look, I don't, bro, you just need to understand. The Athari I have told you before, you guys are so far from God, it's not funny. I don't care to make this
let
Christian.
him come back.
Alright, I'm
I
back.
know he'll
Alright, I'm
come
back. Okay, so what's your kind of difference maker? Because it seems like we're both using it differently over here. So what is your kind of difference maker? And where are you getting it from?
Again, I'm going through the stages, bro.
Can you just tell me, like, bro,
Why
you're
can
not
taking
answering my
place?
questions. Just answer this quick. Like, what
Do
is
you
your kind
understand
of difference
anything
maker?
of what I said about privation, bro? And from our perspective, what actually
Yeah,
occurs, what the will does.
God leads us to a maximally great thing, right? And you were saying that, and that's by grace. Now, can you just steal me what I was saying? And the God's the primary, or he's like the first mover, and he
What's the
causes sustained
what would be
action.
the symmetry to yours compared to what I just said?
Can you
to you,
answer
bro?
my question? I just steal man what you just said. Just answer my
We're
question, bro.
dealing with exactly this right now.
Bro, he's not. He's not answering my question. What is the kind of difference? I just answered your question. Just answer this quick. What a kind of
No,
difference?
you didn't answer my question, bro. At
I
all.
did answer you. You
We're
said
still
what,
stuck on
you
the
asked me to
exact
steal
same
me what
thing,
you said.
and we
I steal
haven't
man
even
what
gone
you
back.
said. You're not answering my question. I literally just answered your question. Just answer my question. What a kind of
We're
difference maker?
stuck on the same thing, and you keep
Bro, just
relaying
answer
difference
my
making,
question.
bro.
What a kind of difference maker are you using?
Yeah, the first time we ever said this, you took and qualified difference making to be you just bring about the cause. Do you remember that you said that?
Yeah, the difference
Exactly what
maker
you're stuck
specifies
on.
some given effect. That's correct. I can show you David Lewis names. Now, what account are you using?
We're talking about your paradigm, what you believe, bro, and what you're committed to. How to not violate the
Well,
ways
first of all, my paradigm doesn't talk about difference. Well, first of all, my paradigm doesn't talk about like the term difference makers. When we talk about difference maker,
a
that's
scholar that talks about specifying the moral form of the act and who does that, and the slave does not do that. And I gave you
Specifying
even
the moral.
and you said to me, why did you bring this up? Why I brought it up is because it's relevant to talk about, because you can read what he says about it and how Allah alone is the only one that specifies the moral form of the act. That's in total symmetry to Christianity, which I provided you, number one, what it means to be a difference maker in our paradigm, and how we specify the moral form of the act, that is to supply and push against God's grace and bring about privation, bro. So
okay, so you're okay, so your kind of difference make is essentially God pushing us to some maximally great thing. Is that your like what's that? That's not even that kind of difference making. Where are you getting this account from? That's not what it means. That's not what it means to be a difference maker. Right? When we talk about difference makers like within causation, when we talk about, for example, David Lewis's account, all David Lewis is trying to say there is that some given cause specifies some given effect, right? For example, let's say we could even formalize it like if C then necessarily E, right? And that's like the effect necessarily falls from the given cause. So the effect is necessary D ray. But you aren't giving an account. You're just telling me what my scholar says, and then you're telling me what your Christian paradigm says, right? Regarding like what it means for there to be privation that God pushes you to do, or like yeah, God pushes you to do mathematically great things, and there's gonna be he's gonna order. There's an order where you try to do mathematically great things, and God's the primary mover, and He's causing to sustain your actions and whatnot. But you're not telling me what's your account difference making. So can you tell me what's your account difference making? Just say like X is a difference maker if and ODF. Like what is it?
I still don't understand why you're hung up on difference making. Again, you think it hinges on that. I don't understand how you're
I'm not saying it hinges on that, but we were talking about that. But look, this X is a difference maker if and ODF what? I can give my account and let's see if you agree on it.
Prior to being a difference maker, right? There's origination of motives and desires. You understand that? Now, I asked you what it means to originate your motives and desires. I said, do you stand upon, for example, the qualification of Apex and Umar? You said yes, right? Ex nihilo. Fine, no problem. Nothing is causally prior to what Allah creates. Now, if He creates that, what triggers Him to create that specific motive and desire? Do you understand what I'm asking you now? We're going from step one to difference maker, to specifying the moral form of the act, to the effects coming about. Now, the effects can transpire through you. That's different to you, let's say, bringing about the effects. Okay? There's a difference. Just because something transpires through you because you're the doer of the act, right? This now is not just about free will. I need you to understand, bro. When discussing free will and all the things we're discussing, it falls into, for example, moral responsibility, moral accountability. And I'm trying to speak to you respectfully, bro, and have an open dialogue here so you understand exactly what this entails and how deep of a subject it is and how much it goes into. So I'm trying to show you, it doesn't only hinge on difference making. Even if, let's say we grant, I qualify difference making to be in contrast to what you say difference making to be. That still is not going to account. One second.
Okay.
That's still not going to account for when we're talking about origination. Okay. So, for example, when I say originate, right, my motives and desires, what do I qualify it to be? How in symmetry is that to the Islamic thing, right? Then, obviously, you have your motives and desires. These have to, for example, align with your intent. After your intent, let's say something obtains between A and not A. Does that fall upon the decree, or does the human, right, have some sort of power or ability into what obtains between one or two of those things? Let's just say an example would be, there's no mutual exclusivity between the two. How would you qualify, just in a simple sense, bro? If I asked you,
I just said there's no mutual
hang on a
exclusivity
second.
between the two.
Allow me to give an example so I can show you, and maybe you see the difference here. In 10 minutes time, bro, we're both walking behind the guy. It's an example I use many times. The guy we're walking behind, he drops $100 out of his pocket. Okay, he's still walking. He hasn't seen he's dropped the money. Me and you, as a hypothetical, two things arise in our mind. We can give back the money or not give back the money. That is to say, A and not A, for example. Okay. What is the sufficient reason as to why one obtains over the other in your paradigm, in symmetry to mine? Do you understand what I'm asking you now?
Yeah, because God providentially determines it and He ethically determines it. That would be, well, there'd be many sufficient conditions, so that would be one sufficient condition,
Yeah.
right?
Do you want me
That
to
God
tell you?
ethically providentially determines it, but that He providentially determines He providentially determines like things that we're gonna do.
Said to you, and I'll clarify again. You
Bro,
can play it
you
back to
want me to
yourself.
finish? Because you literally said it.
Bro, you will get this on clip now to see if I've said this. Now, I said to you, what me and you say when we verbalize origination of motives and desires, we would both qualify it differently. Let's just say as an argument, it's in contrast.
And you said that you qualified in that account. You gave that account. You said that we qualify in different ways, and that you qualify as in that we originate our motives and desires. You literally said that. This guy's such a liar. Like, holy shit!
Go ahead, Uthman.
You can't be
Like,
serious.
look, it's my turn to speak.
Yeah.
It's my turn to speak. By the way, like, I don't know why this guy's like speaking while I'm trying to speak.
Fair, bro.
You literally couldn't define difference making. That's how I know you're a LARP, right? You couldn't define difference making. You don't even know. You don't want to run this argument on me. You're trying to find a symmetry between my paradigm
No, bro,
and your paradigm.
respectfully, I've tried to bring it back
And
to
you're just like
argument
a
about 10
confused
times now.
individual, right? You're just a confused individual.
No,
and
I'm
you
not at
said
all, bro.
you are a confused individual. So look, can you actually give the argument against my paradigm? Can you just like stop shifting because you're changing the topic? It's clearly a red herring.
Uthman, gaslighting constantly is not going to make you look like you're winning. As you can see, I'm very calm and collected today, and I'm trying to give you as much respect and courtesy as I can possibly give. Because I actually think there's a chance for you, bro. I've seen private chats of you, bro. I know you're not upon the authentic creed like you think, bro. Okay? Respectfully. I'm not trying to bring them to life. Allow me to finish what I was saying.
Uthman didn't get to speak.
It's fine, but this guy's not giving the argument. Like, I just need the argument for against, like, the Umar bin Khattab dilemma. You're just diverting. Like, this is like a change.
You haven't even let me, bro. You have, bro, respectfully. You started at the start with difference making. I said to you, it doesn't hinge on that. Can we go through the start to the end? Now, I tried to give you a hypothetical. Number one, to give you a symmetry between both our positions, so you can understand what my sufficient reason is as to why A obtains over not A, and what it means to specify you in the process of all of this, bro. That it doesn't only hinge on difference making. And respectfully, bro, you can't.
What was the sufficient reasoning? Was it God or
time, bro?
I'm clarifying. What's the sufficient reasoning? The sufficient reasoning was what?
Compared to you, I'll give you it. Yeah, the sufficient reason as to why A obtains over not A is because my will is the difference maker. I'm causally efficacious, okay? Now, I would be the one specifying the moral form of the act. That is to say, in this specific circumstance that I gave you as a hypothetical, okay? When the person dropped the $100 note, God would have infallible foreknowledge, right, of what I would do in every possible world, which is to push against His grace or go towards the maximally good outcome. Okay, now that is to say, and allow me to finish with, man, that $100 bill, I would be morally responsible for either giving back, let's say praiseworthy or blameworthy, or if I kept it and put it in my pocket, I would deserve punishment. Now, for you, the sufficient reason falls back to Allah's decree and specification alone. You, my friend, do not specify the moral form of the act. You don't have moral sourcehood. You also don't have source compatibilism. That's what I'm trying to show you, the symmetry between both our positions, bro. In Ibn Qayyim's books, you can read and understand that he says, the slave cannot specify the moral form of the act, rather it is Allah alone who does this. Now, if we use the hypothetical I gave you, if Allah alone...
Can you show me the quote real quick? I just want the quote. I just want to see the quote.
Bro. I can send it to you after, sure. You should read his book on the problem of evil as well, because that'll give you some more insight into all these things we're talking about, which is when it comes to moral accountability, moral responsibility, okay?
Wait, but
you're saying that...
Yeah. Did you get what he said? Like, for them, God knows all possible outcomes. And did you say that, like, we do one of those outcomes? Whether it's either picking up the $100 bill or not?
Yeah, so...
No, he's saying that,
that
the sufficient reasoning is our will. He's saying that the sufficient reasoning is our will, and that we specify the moral... what was it that you said?
The Apostolic Prince agreed with what I said. So, like...
You say, if you're asking a rejection of PAP, of course, bro. For example, I would never affirm that God does not create my actions. Okay, God creates my actions. Number two, hang on, bro. Listen, I'm sick of the straw mans because of almost.
You just say what's entailed.
Just let me say what I know, bro. But other Muslims do. I've read the manual, bro. This has been said. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into it, bro. Listen, I reject PAP. Number one. Number two, God creates my actions. Okay. Number three, I don't believe in libertarian free will. I never have. Okay. Now, what your friend was asking here, yes, there's only one outcome that can transpire. To say for us, for example, that alternate possibilities exist would be to say that God's knowledge is fallible. Of course not. But God knows the outcome, right? I'm trying to give you the symmetry between the sufficient reason and what it means for us, right? We truly believe in concurrentism. So it's not a problem of, for example, quote unquote, tawheed for me to say that I participate with God towards the maximally good outcome, yet he has instilled within me, right, efficacy. My will is efficacious enough to push against that grace. This makes me morally responsible because I'm the one specifying the moral form of the act. You can't say that, and Ibn Qayyim is clear because that denotes partnership or association with Allah. Because what you're saying, and I'm just giving you symmetry here to the Christian paradigm, would be that you're partnering with Allah, right, in specifying the moral form of the act, which is to say you have moral sourcehood. So you're now saying you have epistemic access into knowing what is good and what is bad. You can't say that, bro. I'm trying to be friendly and nice
Okay,
and make you understand.
Okay. Wait, bring the quote, because I don't believe you at all. Because if you're saying, because what you're saying, it just seems to that what I was just trying to say before, it just seems to be denying that we are immediate causes at all. So we need to see that quote immediately. Because this is a big claim. You're saying.
Wait, to be clear, is that what you're saying? Hold up. To be clear, is that what you're saying, Apostolic? Are you saying that we, like Ibn Qayyim and all of them, say that we're not immediate causes?
Number one, I'm not saying anything in what he just said. I didn't even bring up cause. And again,
but that's what you said entails.
That's
so
what you're. Yeah,
exactly. Let's just be clear. Is that what you're saying?
How did you get to that conclusion? That's what it entails, bro.
Look, you were saying that we don't specify some given effect, right? And in virtue of not specifying some given effect, that means that we don't partake. You're saying that you partake in God's.
I didn't say I partake, bro. I said participation, concurrent.
Oh, sorry, you said you participate in doing something, and either doing you participate in doing some actually good thing, right? And so,
this is really hard because you don't understand how this. Do you want to try?
Let Uthman finish, please, bro.
Yeah,
finish, bro. Just let Uthman finish.
Just let me finish. And so in virtue of that, obviously, when you talk about, well, we don't specify, the slave doesn't specify, this thing. It's already law, right? It just seems to be that you're denying. Wait, hold on. Just let me finish. It just seems to be that you're claiming that that Ibn Qayyim is denying immediate causation for creatures. Because you mentioned concurrentism. You understand? Okay, what do you think concurrentism is? You've been asking all the questions. What do you think concurrentism is in the thesis for concurrentism? Like, what does it postulate? Don't dodge this question.
Again from the substance of what we're speaking.
No, you brought up concurrentism. No, you're not going to dodge this question. You're going to answer. You mentioned concurrentism, and you said you mentioned concurrentism, and you said, what does immediate causation have to do with anything with this?
You said I partake.
I'm asking you the question. You're not.
I said participation, bro, not partake.
That's fine. Now, can you answer my question?
You said I said partake. So this is now the third time you asserted something I said that I didn't say, bro, respectfully. You said immediate cause. Hang on, bro. You're not even trying to listen to understand.
You mentioned concurrentism.
Actually...
Yo, Maud, he's not answering the question. Yo, can you answer the question?
Hold up. Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest, we gotta like keep it linear. You're the one who said that we don't participate in any way to bring about the effect, but you guys do. That's what you said. And Uthman is saying, if this is what you're saying, then you're saying that you're denying that we are immediate causations. And this is what Ibn Qayyim is saying. That's why he's asking to bring up the
quote again. Where I'm speaking
even
about.
If you don't have it, even if you have it, that's fine. But then we can't go on with this because there's no way Ibn Qayyim takes that. There's no way that's what Ibn Qayyim believes.
You guys are reaching some conclusion based on just what your mind is coming to.
I asked you a question, bro. All I asked you, what do you think? You see, he doesn't know what. Just answer the question. What is concurrentism? Like, what do you think the thesis postulates?
Respectfully, bro, I told you that I
participate. Why is he not answering the question?
You want to
you're on the script
from my perspective, yes or no?
Can you tell me what concurrentism is, or what the thesis postulates? This guy's unlocked. Like, he's literally just sitting there. Yo, hello? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's mentioning these terms like concurrentism, source compatibilism, or source incompatibilism, sorry. And all these terms. And he's never read the book for this. I even mentioned that we have guidance control, but not regularity control. Right? And I'm sure he doesn't even know what that means. So I wanted to see him in both those things.
We can keep quiet until it comes.
I think how's it going, boys, by the way?
Yakavos?
Not much.
Yeah, what's up, Yakavos? God bless, bro.
Yeah, God bless everyone. I think the origination stuff, he was just saying, like, I don't know, you could chime in, but like obviously, like, we talk about difference making, right? Origination in some sense is going to be like necessary to grant like there is a difference maker at all. But like the account of origination might be different in both paradigms.
No, I understand. Look, I understand that origination is part of the understanding of difference making. Obviously, it's part of like difference. When we talk about difference making and difference makers, they're part of like it's part of like causation, right? And
I mean, it's
obviously
just
we
like
want to account for.
it's fairly
But
like synonymous.
I asked him what his account of difference maker was, and he's not telling me. And then he said that, oh, we have like different accounts of difference making, and he said that his account of difference making was just us originating some motive and desire, like his
I
account.
mean,
You see, that's like
yeah,
not
like
informative.
that's look, that can be like constitute of it. I think like when we talk about difference making, it's gonna be like synonymous with like say efficient cause, especially as like how someone like I think Feza defines it because he talks about sort of this free will and action stuff as well and causation. And I think like
When I
it's
talk
just
about
better.
difference maker, I'm just taking like David Lewis's account because he talks about like counterfactual dependence causation, and he talks about difference making, and he says like the term difference maker is some given cause, right, specifies some specific effect, and so like obviously it's in virtue of the specific cause coming about, being originated, the the effect necessarily follows from this given cause. So the effect would be necessary like D-Ray essentially. But
Yeah, I mean, I guess like David Lewis is also a mode realist as well. So like I guess his account of counterfactual conditionals and stuff is a bit interesting.
I just
He,
use
he, he takes
obviously
he takes it to be like he says like something counts as a cause of like changing or removing it.
If it brings about like a
change
change
the
to a state of
outcome.
affairs in
Yeah.
reality, yeah.
So
Like I would take that kind of difference making.
yeah,
But I
exactly. He
think
said
like
that.
yeah, because where it comes in, if we look at say like Malebranche and Ghazali, for example, they'll take like necessary connections between the cause and effect would constitute like what a real secondary cause is here. But like I think like if we speak like when you guys say for example in like in your account of Tawhid al-Rububiyyah that like Allah is alone the Lord, He's alone the Creator. Depends what that word alone is doing there. Like if we're saying like in every sense Allah alone reveals like legislation, He governs the affairs of the world, then it's just like it becomes like muddy of what it then means for like any other causes to be necessary.
Did you just leave? Or is he coming back?
I don't know.
Because he has two burdens to satisfy. And it's clear that he does, no offense, but he doesn't know any of these terms. I told him, because if he actually read the book, right, regarding compatibilism, there is something called semi-compatibilism, which is battling against libertarianism, trying to make the accusation that we can't account for alternative or PAP. Okay,
Yeah,
he's
this is
back.
like the like Kant's view and stuff like that. Like they like what would they would call like soft compatibilists, right? So they'd hold to like what's called like conditional PAP, where they would like say like, okay, cool, like there is some metaphysical openness in the world, but the outcomes are certain. But then that just like means like to say something's certain but not condition necessary, I think is gibberish. That's why
No,
like
then the author goes on to kind of deny that there is a kind of conditional, or like he denies kind of like metaphysical openness because it can be gibberish, because then you can't really account for like well, he talks about how you can account for like what can account for like how can you satisfy the conditional, I guess, because he gives like different conditions that would essentially like different laws and whatnot, like of nature. So say for example, like he gives like examples with what do you call it, with like with somebody driving, and different things can partake in, like different things could actually happen in reality, like say the steering wheel goes wrong, or like some
that's just
neurological
yeah. This is just like the consequence argument. It's just like we don't really govern the state of affairs of history. Like those conditions are fixed. So like when we hold those set of conditions fixed, you're obviously going to have like a limited outcomes that can obtain within like what's metaphysically open. But then it's also the case that the outcome that does attain is also like certain as well. And there's no bridge between that, which is like certain, which is conditionally necessary. Well, this is how just like Leibniz puts it anyway.
Well, I'm pretty sure Leibniz is also, I mean, he believes in like something like global necessity, which
Yeah, but he talks about
reject.
in his book Theodicy, he talks about something called like a hypothetical necessity, which pretty much just says like everything is fixed and everything is necessary, but only as it's contingent on what God decrees. It's either that or like moral necessity. So then like I think like the whole like premise of the argument is like, look, we have some like fixed decree by God. I think we affirm that like what is providentially the case will obtain, and nothing we do can change that decree. But within that act of decreeing, obviously God's going to take some set of motives into account of the agent. So like obviously we would give an account, like we've got something called like the divine logoi, which is it's a Maximian concept, and it pretty much just says like similar to what AP is saying about being driven towards like a maximally great state. But what the way Saint Maximus gives the account, he says like everyone has like a principled end, like everyone has like where God intends for them to be, and that might be like, for example, like for you to be upon like salvation, you might have like a path that God has intended for you, but because like we're in some sense like we're rational beings, but we're also like evil to an extent, like we deprive things. That's what the specification is. So like moral form is just like what the act is relative to like God's will. So then when God's like decreeing things, does he take this into account? And then if he takes it into account, is there a sense in which God alone isn't complete in like decreeing things here? We would say like, yeah, we're fine with saying that. We're fine with like saying God in a sense gives himself to us in like the state of affairs which is decreed.
What do you mean
So it
he gives
depends on
himself
like,
to us?
so like he sort of like, so say for example he creates this world, like I find like God creates this world, and then within this creating world he knows like that I'll like deprive some sort of good, right? And in doing that he allows it, like he's given me his grace, he's allowed me to like be apart from that, deprive it, and then subsequently like that is his decree. His decree now says T0 I'll do, or at TX I'll do some bad, whether that's missing prayer or whatever it's going to be, right? But that's just a permissive thing. But then I can't go and then say, well, God alone is like complete in decreeing those matters.
But do you think that like God in some way like is the primary cause for said action? And
Of
you
course,
believe that God sustains said action? Okay, so it
that
isn't
would
merely
be
just.
that'd be like a concurrentist account like
No,
this.
but I
That's
mean,
what, like,
wouldn't you agree he's like the complete cause, like in the first order of the chain? So like for example, when we speak about like, you know, the primary cause, at the first level of the chain, he is satisfying all the necessary and sufficient conditions,
do you mean
like
like,
all the external factors. So like, yeah, at the first chain, it would just be satisfying all like the external conditions, as well as like, you know, God sustaining like and as well as like internal, right? So like God actually sustaining the cause and then like sustaining the creature, which is just like immediate and remote causation.
do you mean like vertical divergence, for example, how we've got like I know some account of concurrentists can take like you have like what's called like vertical and horizontal divergence, which is just to say like God moves one way in the chain, not that it's like a literal direction, and then agents move a different way in the chain. But like when I just talk about complete cause, I'm talking about the composition of everything that's needed to bring about an effect. So like if you say like God is the complete cause, is the primary cause, I don't really know what that means, because the cause.
Yeah, I think
cause here.
Uthman is maybe like using it like he's equivalent like what, like how complete cause is used, but I think he means that like God is, you know, the complete cause insofar as like when it comes to, you know, the primary chain.
He'd
At least.
be the sufficient cause, meaning like there's nothing stopping God from willing certain events. So for example, like if God so willed that we didn't have agency, and to like bring about things like through instrumental causes, then he could have done that. That would mean he's like the sufficient cause, like there's nothing else that's needed for him, if he willed for that effect. But we're talking about something being like the complete cause here, like we're talking about if an effect would follow. And you guys would say similar things. So like, I think, for example, like in the Minhaj Sunnah, I think it's book 1, Ibn Taymiyyah talks about how when the Qudra is created, like when the power is created in the agent, the effect necessarily follows. So like Ibn Taymiyyah's position here would definitely be that some secondary cause is needed for the effect. So you could verbalize that, but then it just comes back to that tension of what does this now mean for like Allah being like the sole originator of, I guess, things that are created, or things that are legislated or whatnot. So like for example, like the Umar ibn Khattab thing, we're talking about something which is due to God alone. With the Prophet, for example, you would say he's I forget the Arabic word, but like what you say for him being like the objective standard of morality. Like are these moral principles, obviously they don't arise from agents, right? They arise from God. Now you could say like the Prophet is the one who like spreads these, and that's fine. But then the issue is like, is that morality grounded within God or grounded within Muhammad? And then if it's the case that like there is some aspect which the Prophet influences it, then I don't know how we would get out of saying like God alone is the one who, you know, grounds what is moral and what's not moral.
Wait, hold on. So are we talking about Muhammad being the objective moral standard, or the Umar ibn Khattab thing?
Oh, like both can apply when it comes to like primary secondary cause. It's just like there's just like ways of talking about I guess this argument. We can go whichever one's easier.
I mean, we can go over the Umar ibn Khattab one first, and then we can go over the Muhammad being the more objective standard. So with Umar ibn Khattab being like, what would be the issue there? Because I think you already gave the issue for Muhammad being the objective moral standard.
Yeah, sure. So like we're talking about what obtains here is like a divine legislation. So one of those three things in that narration that is agreed with is like the hijab laws, and then it's revealed in an ayah. Now, obviously, you might want to say that God alone is complete, and like He alone reveals what is like legislative. There's no like desires of creatures that influence what God makes proper to legislation, right? Now, when it comes to God revealing His, like He can choose to use like an agent's will as an instrument to bring that out, and that would be an occasion. But then, if you want to hold on to this idea that God creates within agents of power, and then from that power comes like revelation, then I don't know how you would reconcile then God being alone a legislator here.
Okay, and you're saying that so you're saying that if we take like the first option where Umar ibn Khattab is just merely experiencing the occasion, and God is, you know, solely legislating everything, and He's revealing everything, then he's just using Umar bin Khattab as an instrument, and this would be kind of like a negation of free will. And if you were to take the other option, where Umar bin Khattab is actually the difference maker over there, then it seems like Umar bin Khattab is legislating with God, and in virtue of him legislating with God, this now would be violating Tawheed Rububiyyah, or at least like he's legislating.
If and only if, like, I guess if we look at most English translated sources, like I've got three that say like Tawheed Rububiyyah means like Allah is the sole originator of these things, like, so that it's just like depends what that word soul is doing for us here.
Yeah, it depends on the reading you have with God is the sole creator of the states of affairs obtained, but
because
I don't think anybody has like an issue with God being like creating our actions. I don't see how that would be.
Yeah, so I don't think
that means. Like,
so look, I don't think it's really just those two options, because I don't believe that because Umar bin Khattab suggested those three things, that he's now like legislating, or he's revealing those three verses. When we say but we can still account for him still being a difference maker. It just wouldn't be for that event or that given effect, right? So obviously, when we say Umar bin Khattab is difference making, or he is the difference maker, what effect is being specified there is the suggestions. But the effect that isn't being specified over here isn't the revealing of the verses. It would more so be the suggestion that is being specified when we talk about Umar bin Khattab revealing, or not revealing, but suggestion.
And the reason why is because I do think that it is a little odd to say like a given action or origination is merely the occasion for set of. I think like occasion there might be being used like we might be equivocating on it, because it seems odd to say, well, said suggestion is an occasion, or said action is an occasion for another action.
Brother, listen, brother in humanity. Prior to that suggestion, Allah must create, right? Omar saying that. This is why I'm trying to show you, not just hinging on difference making, but also specifying the moral form of the act. What I'm specifically targeting here and showing you the pressure point is, Umar ibn Khattab could not, listen to what I'm saying, have specified the moral form of the act, that is to give the suggestion. Now, that is to say between A and not A obtaining, okay? Not A is to not give the suggestion. Understand? A is to give the suggestion. He could not have been the one who specified the moral form of the act, because by any precedent, that makes you a partner and associate with Allah when it comes to legislation. This is divine legislation now, bro. Allah alone, like Ibn Qayyim says, and I'll bring you the quote. Stop strawmanning me saying it's about only causation.
Can you respond to what I said though? Because I think you're not understanding. I'm talking about we're accounting for two events here. You're still collapsing them as if they're one event.
Yeah, you're kind of.
Because you're saying, well, no, I'm saying these are two events. Like, we don't got to say that he's part of this chain that, like, brought down this revelation. I'm saying we're talking about two events.
I should hope not. Of course, I should hope not. But unfortunately, that's where it leads to, by certain things you try and verbalize. That's what you're not understanding here. Now, the reason Ibn Qayyim says that Allah alone specifies the moral form of the act, that is to say, if we apply this to Umar ibn Khattab dilemma here, if you say that he had the ability to specify the moral form of the act, then the outcome is pure and simple. A creature has participated in what becomes legislation because he has also specified the moral form of the act. If it's not Allah alone doing this, then the creature has participated in this. That's shirk, bro. Rububiyyah.
Okay.
You said specifying the moral form.
I'm gonna say this like real quick. Okay. I still have like problems with that response, because, like I said, you still have to like show why this collapses into one event. You still haven't shown that. Like, you're saying a given action is an occasion for said event. Like Umar, we fall into occasionalism because his action is merely the occasion, but then you're just using occasion here idiosyncratically, at least how you're trying to properly use it. You're not showing how he still did not originate his motives and desires, and how that is a separate event from the revealing of the surah. It's like saying like there's a war and the Quran speaks about this war. It's like saying, well, this war, this action is the occasion for this verse being revealed. I think like trying to collapse these two events into one. We're denying that. So that's all I have to say.
And when you say forming this more, well, you're saying specifying this more form of the effect, right? And by that you just mean that when you say that, all that means there is that we're choosing A or not A, or we're specifying A between A or not A. And so how does this violate Tawheed Rububiyyah? If you were to accept that we can specify A over not A? And this is presumably that we're denying PAP over here.
Yeah. I think so I wanted to sort of focus on two things. So that what you just said, like, deny PAP, how does it violate Tawheed? Because it goes back to what Sola said. So Sola would say that what the effect is here is just a suggestion, which I contend, because I'd say
I wasn't saying that. I'm saying that the revealing of this verse and this suggestion are two distinct events. They're not the same
Yes.
event. So it
So
wouldn't
you're saying what was specified by Umar was the suggestion, but not
The
the ayah being
suggestion.
revealed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I guess what would be contended is like that suggestion there. That's something that's like intrinsic to the agent, right? Like that's something that is within like Umar's will, like his faculty. So like we wouldn't be like obviously disputing that like Umar doesn't have a will simpliciter, because like even like occasions can still have like a faculty, and they could be like the locus of some effects that transpire. But like I think like most like in the literature, most people talk about the effect as being like what now obtains within reality. So like we could say like, yeah, the suggestion still came from Umar, and that wouldn't be denying. But then we could even go even further back to that, and this goes back to your question, Uthman, when you said like, all right, well, what's the contention now with Tawheed if we just take the position that Umar made the suggestion, that's just sufficient for the will to be free? Well, the decree also says that Umar will make that suggestion, right? So we can just like regress that back and go, well, now, was Umar's will actually necessary for him to make the suggestion for God to decree that if God alone decrees?
When you say necessary, are you saying necessary as in like because that's a modal
I'm not using it like, because like, I don't know if you caught it in my discussion with Apex. He thought I was using necessary in like modal semantics. But I'm definitely not using like necessary in like impossible world semantics.
Okay, so are you saying that the will is necessary, that his will is necessary, like derail? Like, how are you using necessary? Because it seems like, it seems to be an equivocation of like necessary over here can just mean sufficient. If,
just in causation, just in like it just seemed like causal priority.
Just as in causal priority. So like, okay, that I still I don't see that answers my question.
Like if we talk causal priority, we just say like
I think it's just simply this like argument is trying to like show how Umar doesn't have any causal efficacy. Like he doesn't have any ability to originate his motives and desires because he's merely experiencing the occasion for this verse to be revealed. I'm saying no, he does. Are you responding to that or?
Yeah. So then when we talk about causal priority, it just means like what is like necessary in this chain of causation for the effect to follow.
And what's the effect here? The revelation or
this is going on what you said now, like the suggestion, because like I guess you've granted the ayah, like Umar did not influence that. Which I would contend like some occasions would be like, well, that's where it sort of ends there. But look, I'm just going to grant that the suggestion might be sufficient for the will to like be really efficacious here. And then I would just go back to the decree now. So in that writing of the suggestion, or Umar having that suggestion, is his like will necessary causally prior to that suggestion being written down as something that will obtain?
And you just mean like it's something that's essential for the given effect that's being brought about. Then
yeah,
sure.
as in like causally, like yeah, before Allah wrote it down, like basically he had foreknowledge that like Umar would do, like suggest this, and then like consequently like wrote it down.
I mean,
yeah,
supposedly, yeah. I mean, that's for like a lot of verses. I mean, verses are revealed in response to events and stuff that is happening. So God wrote down, you said action, and the verse would be revealed. Yeah, I believe God has exhaustive foreknowledge.
Yeah, I mean, like my problem isn't so much like God responding to creatures. Like I definitely affirm that God, like we have an effect on God, like He responds to us. But I'm just talking about things which are like providentially the case. So like for us, for example, one that always comes up in our discussions is like the Garden of Gethsemane prayer, and like when Christ says, "Not your will, but my will be done." So that's where Saint Maximus had a lot of trouble explaining how free will worked to people who were like contending him. So like we're just talking about things which are like providentially the case. So like things like decrees and legislations here, morality, which is why like we like brought up the prophet being like the objective standard. So like the problem isn't like things that being written down. It's just like what is prior and what is needed prior for those things to be written down. And then if you just say like, well, like God has exhaustive foreknowledge, and then subsequently just like writes down what will happen in that world, then the issue isn't so much now about free will, but it's if God alone is the one who decrees, like I've been saying. Because like you want to try and keep God as the first mover, even when He's writing things down. And for us, we would just say like, God by an act of grace is the one who preponderates, and then He can still have some foreknowledge of what obtains, but we still kept Him as the first mover. Like so, like this is what Aquinas' view was, which I know I'm not like I used to be a Catholic, but the Aquinas view of preponderation or the preponderator ties in a lot with like synergism and concurrentism. Like,
okay, and so you're saying that this would, and presumably you're saying that us simply saying that these things are providentially determined, or God, is writing these things down. We'd want to, what do you call it? Preserve the fact that God is somebody who is the only one that decrees these actions, right? And we wouldn't want to say that.
Like I would.
Paradigm.
That's right. Whereas I wouldn't be so much committed to say like God alone decrees things, because we have like a principle like what I've heard, the divine Logoi principle. I think it's like divine ideas that have always existed in God's mind, and God as He wills these things into creation. and then like there wouldn't be an issue of providence for us because we just have different, like I guess, axioms in our belief when it comes to what qualifies for providence.
Wait. So God has these different divine ideas within his mind, and what
That's right,
divine ideas.
and these things are just like principles for like what he desires for creation. So like it's biblically the case, they call it like the antecedent will, what God desires for all men. But each man, like we have like our own principle as well, that's been instilled in us by God.
Wait, okay, but how is this, like, I don't see the symmetry breaker. Because look, you simply saying that God has these ideas from his divine logia, and, it's just, well, presumably within, like, these divine ideas, he is providentially determining everything, right?
Yeah, and what we mean by like providential determination is like everything that will come into being does come into being by whether God allows it to come into being, whether he directly wills it to come into being necessarily. So there can be a myriad of things, but what we can do is keep God as the primary mover. So like what I'm saying, I guess in your paradigm is how are you keeping God as the primary mover if it's merely based on just like the account of foreknowledge?
Yeah, because, well, firstly, we would be saying that God, in virtue of providentially determining the future, right, where, I mean, my kind of providential determination is going to be where God is arranging all these state of affairs relative to some purpose, right? So he's going to be arranging some state of affairs that are ordered to a purpose, and in virtue of doing that, it's going to be causally determined. It's going to be causally determined. So he's arranging all the external conditions that will allow for an agent to, originate some given action. And so,
so like you appeal to like the hikmas, for example.
yeah. So obviously, the providence over here, when we say everything, all state of affairs are providentially determined. This is just like the hikmah constraining like some given world, and all those state of affairs are going to be necessarily like d-ray.
But it wouldn't like be like
conditionally necessary.
Yeah.
It's not globally necessary. And so, obviously, in virtue of it being conditionally necessary, they must obtain relative to some given world. However,
I was going to say like conditional necessity is like posterior to the decree, right? Like you're talking about, like you said, like the ray necessity, in virtue of like what one's properties are and all those sort of things. But I'm just talking about that act from going from there's obviously you don't hold the decree as eternal, or do you? Just before I accidentally storm in.
No, we believe it was written like 50,000 years before. It was at like a point in time.
But God,
yeah, so like that, yeah, that act of writing, you're saying what's composite is the hikmas and also the foreknowledge of like an agent's events.
Wait, you're saying wait. Ask the question one more time. You said the hikmah is what the foreknowledge of an
yeah. So like of all everything that constitutes this writing, right? You're saying it's composite of the hikmas and also the like knowledge of what the agent will desire and what the agent will do.
Yeah.
Okay. So then in that case, like we're still locating something within the agent here, right? Before like something is being written down.
Locate like for which, like for like a creature, like which agent are you talking about when we're saying we're locating something within the agent?
We're locating something in the agent's will for this thing to be written down. For example, like Uthman will will to go play basketball at 3 p.m. Oh, okay. So this plus any hidden wisdom I've got, obviously like we don't know what like hidden knowledge is what's going to constitute writing here. So in that case, like you would just say that, well, okay, God alone is not the only one decreeing here.
And okay, what do you take decree to be?
Yeah, decreeing is just going to be like the providential will, the decreed will to like that's how this is whose causal power everything that will come into being.
Yeah, okay. And if you just say, well, if you're just saying like the decree, we can agree it's something that's providentially determined. Creatures aren't providentially determining anything because they're not.
But they're participating in what's providentially determined, right?
Sure, you could say as if by participating in it, you just mean like, like what do you mean by participating in the given hikmah? Or you're saying like
not in it. So I'm removing say the hikmah because like you would say the hikmah, we don't know what the hikmah is, right? I think Ibn Taymiyyah says.
Well, I mean, you participate in the providential determination.
Yeah. Like I think the way Ibn Taymiyyah puts it out in the Majmu' Fatawa volume 8, he talks about like there being, for example, like Allah is the one who has reasons, and He drives the ingredients to the event, and we don't know what those reasons are. As some hidden wisdom beside like why evils obtain in the world, all these sort of things, and that's necessary to like say solve the POE, for example. Going back to actions, we remove the hikmah from the equation because we don't know what they are, but we do know about the foreknowledge because obviously we know the contents of this actual world once these events take place. And now if we have this composition like of the hikmahs and the foreknowledge of what we'll obtain, then that content of that foreknowledge now becomes something that was used or something that was necessary in this causal chain of writing down what we'll obtain. And if like that's fine, if you want to say like, yeah, I take that position, then you would be closer to say what we'd say about free will and predestination. But then I would be challenging now what it means to say that Allah alone is the one who decrees and wills, right? Because like obviously.
Okay. Well, I don't understand how it would entail that we are partly decreeing, because number one, we define decree as in God, like something like the future is providentially determined, right? and this is some state of affairs relative to like this state of affairs being arranged based on relative to like this agent's relevant to like God's purpose, right? And so us simply partaking in, these state of affairs that are being arranged isn't us decreeing. Like, I don't see how that follows.
We wouldn't be decreeing, definitely not decreeing like independence. Like something I always say is like we're granting full dependence on God here in every sense, right? But there's a case in which we have influence over that, and if we have influence, then there's something about God that's not complete in decreeing that. And if what's going to be soul here, if we say something like X is soul if and only if they are the complete cause of Y obtaining, then you would have to say in some sense like God is not the sole agent who is decreeing here.
And okay, so you're saying that based on the fact that we have some given influence over God, well, because like we're sufficient. I mean, we're partial causes, and so you're saying that in virtue of us being, well, what you call,
immediate, partial causes to this.
Yeah, in virtue of us being partial causes, we have some influence over, God's decree, and therefore we're partly quote unquote decreeing too.
Yeah, we influence the decree. Yeah, I think and I take that sort of view, and I think that's fine under like the Maximian worldview and the Nicene worldview.
I mean, I guess then we're just using decree differently here.
Yeah, because I already said like decree is something like very specific. Like it's going to be the case that, and I know I understand like you're saying like we influence what God, because obviously
just
he
quickly,
providentially.
Just 1 second, and then keep going. Just to jump in, just in case you go too far. I'm just using decree to be synonymous with the writing here, with that al-mahfuz, like what's actually written down.
Yeah, no, obviously, well, yeah, obviously like God, prior to providentially determining it, he alethically determines it, but then once he alethically determines it, given alethically determines like the future contingent propositions, he writes them down, and this is relative to some purpose that he has, right? But you're saying that we creatures have, what do you call, influence, as in like we're sufficient causes.
No,
right?
not sufficient. Sufficient would mean like there's nothing else.
Partial.
Yeah,
I mean,
partial,
we're. Yes.
Yeah, there's a necessary There's a necessary connection between like your will and the given state of affairs.
Okay, and so that's what you mean then. Yeah, so that's what you mean then, and we can accept that, and we can just say like, but then that's kind of like straying away from the definition of being something being decreed, because obviously when we say God alone decrees, what that means is that God providentially determines the future. We don't providentially determine the future, even if we have like, let's say like there's some sort of influence that we have because we're partial causes, and God providentially determines what we are going to do. That wouldn't be the case that we are partly decreeing. I mean, it'll just be changing the definition of decree over here.
I can just like stillman what he said in like your literature, how the qadar is knowledge, will, writing, and creation. And I can focus on the writing bit. And I think like what I'm saying would follow when it comes to the writing bit. And there might be some tension here of like what it means for God to alone write. If we want to get away from just like being ambiguous with the word decree, that's fine.
No, we can agree providential determination. Providential determination is pertaining to God simply writing it, right? That's what you're trying to say. Like God simply writing it, posterior to him alethically determining the future, he's writing it down, and that's what you mean by providential determination, right?
Yeah, but I think you would say decreeing is all encompassing of those 4 criteria, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah. I'm saying what you're speaking about.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm just focusing here on like the like link between writing it down and then willing it into creation.
Yeah, I know. Like obviously, like in virtue of him. So what you're saying is it's encapsulating him writing it down and then him willing it, right? So those two levels of Then even then, like let's say we're encompassing these 2 levels of God, where God is writing it down and he also wills it too, right? And obviously, willing over here is going to just refer to like causal determination. That's still
there's a deterministic link between what God wills and what obtains, and that's what we're focusing on here. Like we would all agree this.
Yeah. But when we say God alone decrees, and we're still speaking about willing over here, willing is just gonna be encompassing, well, all the roles that like the primary cause plays. So
so divine will is just causal power. Like I just use it to be like causal power here. Like whatever God wills, God does.
No, but whatever we conferred onto like this given agent. Like for example, that this agent arranges all the external conditions. For example, now obviously the agent. Now when I speak about agent, I'm speaking about God, but then I'm also speaking about like, for example, like creatures. Creatures have like they have like like one sufficient condition is that, and that is that they have active power, right? But when this wouldn't go against like the fact that we're merely saying God alone decrees everything, and that's encapsulating both like willing and writing, because obviously it's more. We're not really. I know you're not really concerned more with like the writing part. It's more so with the willing part, because we are the secondary causes, and that would kind of show that we are, in virtue of us being secondary causes, that would mean that we partly decree, and that's what you're trying to say, right?
That's essentially it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I would just contest this notion of how you understand decree, then, because obviously when we say God alone decrees, and we're talking about willing over here, we're talking about within the first order of the chain, right? So the primary cause and what like roles we confer onto like the primary cause, we would say like, for example, the primary cause, it arranges like these given, and that's why I used complete in the first order, in the sense where like
I'm a bit iffy about that, because like I'm not familiar of anything in literature that like restricts complete cause to like just.
No, I know.
Like,
we don't have to use complete. We can use
Yeah,
sufficient.
I see that too. But yeah, man, that's what he means by it. Like,
yeah, I just mean we don't need to use complete. We can use sufficient though. I was saying like that's what I meant. That's what I meant like prior though. Like that's what I mean prior.
You would agree that like God is like he's the direct cause of like some things that happen in the world, right? Like God, for example, can like appear, he can speak from like a burning bush or something, even though he's not there. He can cause his voice, he can cause his like words to come from there, and obviously he's sufficient and complete in doing that. He's the direct cause. Like he can cause storms to happen if he wills, like all these sort of things, right? He'd be like the direct cause.
I believe. Wouldn't you agree that God is the immediate cause for everything? Like for example, he's the immediate cause for our action insofar as he's concurrently conserving like a given action within creation.
Is immediate doing the same thing as efficient here, or like remote, like distal? Because like I'd say
it would be efficient, because because it's not merely remote. Because within like, for example, within like what do you think when you read a paper, when you like, for example, in the paper, when it demarcates between mere conservatism, divine concurrentism, and occasionalism, what do you think the demarcation is between divine concurrentism and mere concurrentism? Because this is what Thomas Aquinas would. Thomas Aquinas would accept divine concurrentism.
That's right. So divine concurrentism here is just like you've got a first mover who sustains the second cause, and ultimately he defines it as like working with them to bring about the effects. The only reason he uses the word working with them because that's scriptural in Christian theology, like Philippians 2:13, 2 Corinthians 4. But then in the literature you've got people who discern between occasionalism and also now instrumentalism as well, right? Like so there can be a symmetry breaker between what it means for the will to be an instrument and just a mere occasion. But I think like most philosophers and theologians would agree that instrumentalism itself might not be sufficient for the will to be free, which can be used like synonymously with like mere concurrentism.
Well, mere concurrentism is just saying that, look, with something like mere concurrentism, what they're trying to say is that that God isn't the immediate cause, right? So he's not sustaining our action within like creation, for example. But obviously you wouldn't want to,
I think it collapses. Yeah,
God. I think you don't want to say God is concurrently conserving our actions, versus within divine concurrentism, God is still concurrently conserving like some given action within creation.
He's sustaining the power, which allows us to like specify or like form what we want to do. Yeah, for sure. Because like even like the occasion, right, would just say, well, the occasions would say like God is the only cause. Like there's even if something appears to be an instrument, it's not even an instrument. Like God is the one causing it. It's just there as a conduit. Whereas at least instrumentalism, they would say the locus of the effect, for example, like even though God is the only one who's sufficient and complete in the match lighting a fire, the match was still used as an instrument. But then if we liken concurrentism to that, then the match would have some like real intrinsic efficacy. And those like the three different criteria. I got a table on it as well that I can show later.
But before you speak apostolic, you said that I didn't understand the pressure points. Well, what was it that I didn't understand?
Yeah, I don't think you are, bro, respectfully. I think your friend at the bottom understands certain things, but I think you're trying to manage what's a difficult subject to manage, and especially when it comes to your commitments. It's what I've tried to show you so many times, bro, when it comes to Tawheed Rububiyyah. Now, you should understand, in contrast to the Ashri, why they don't have any problems with this. Why don't you, like, I'm not saying this to be like a dick to you, but bro, please, for the love of God, read what Al-Ghazali says all about this, and just look in contrast to your position. And then read Ibn Taymiyyah's position. Read Ibn Qayyim, for example, the book on the problem of evil. I'll send you where I got the quote from, where Ibn Qayyim's talking about specifying the moral form of the act and why it's a detriment. For example, if there's a Muslim out there, as an argument's sake, that says, why specify the moral form of the act? What argument he's trying to make? Because we can verbalize some sort of participation when it comes to concurrentism, because we have the concept of synergy, okay? Now, for you, it bites harder because Allah has to be the only one decreeing, willing, and specifying everything. Right? Nothing can be causally prior to his decree. He can't be, for example, taking into consideration this creature he will create, subsequently at this point in time, will originate this motive and desire to do this, thus this triggers Allah to create that action in accordance to that. No, bro, the creature can't have any sort of participation or association into what Allah decrees, wills, and specifies. This is what you need to protect. You're trying to protect Allah alone being this. Now, what you learned on before, like Yakavos is trying to help you, and I'm trying to be master, bro, and like have some patience and grant you why I have why these dilemmas existing in your specific creed. Because what you do want is concurrentism. What you do want to verbalize is some sort of agency. What you do want to verbalize is secondary causation. We get that, bro. The problem is, can it be substantiated within Quran, Sunnah, and your Tawheed commitments? That's what it is.
I think maybe it's just I think all of this, because just so you know, Ibn Qayyim, he goes against the Jabaris and Qadiris. Same with Ibn Taymiyyah. You know, you have the leeways. So according to our creed, yeah, we do have agency. I mean, it's pretty clear that that's what they argue against. So it wouldn't be our commitments. And number two, you would have to show like how we don't. And the only way you got to try to show it is say, well, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Allah is the sole creator and sustainer of all states of affairs.
Not only, bro, no.
Look, yeah, that's one side. There is.
Let me give him a symmetry to something. Let me please, bro, respectfully. You know when it comes to Tawheed uluhiyyah, and you say that the Ashri violate Tawheed uluhiyyah, okay, when it comes to istighatha and tawassul. Some disagree whether it's istighatha or tawassul, what constitutes for shirk, okay? If you read, all right, Al-Ghazali, the way he defends it is by saying this: because of our position, okay, on Tawheed Rububiyyah, because we don't say we're a secondary cause, because we don't say anything has intrinsic causal powers, because we don't think anyone acts but Allah alone, right? We do not violate, because intention alone is not enough to, let's say, assert from the authority that the Ashri violates Tawheed Uluhiyyah now. This is what you don't understand now. Al-Ghazali, please.
They're really confused. I think this argument that you bring is pretty difficult for them to handle because of that. I don't take from Al-Ghazali at all, to be honest. I think that view is problematic.
I'm not saying you need to take from it. What I'm saying is, let's say before you attack the Ashri on this position, you would have to understand why they think they don't violate it. Now, this ties back into Rububiyyah, because the Ashri would never say or try to verbalize what you're saying. Let's use the Umar ibn Khattab thing as an example, okay, for the sake of the argument.
I know that's interpretation, but I don't take that interpretation. I understand Apostolic, but I feel like you have to. I understand, but this is like the problem. I mean, I don't like you're the one who's taking this. I've literally got 5 minutes.
Let me hit it home. So what it hinges on is moral accountability and moral responsibility, bro. Okay, so between your creeds, how did they manage how the slave is morally accountable or morally responsible? Why does Allah give him praiseworthy, or why does Allah give him blameworthy? Now, the authority position would be this: desires, and because we're the doer of the act in reality, subsequently we become the symmetry between the Jabriya and the Ashri is Al-Ghazali went into this thoroughly, okay? He says there's a symmetry between involuntary movements, voluntary movements, and what it means to acquire, right? Now, he was trying to protect Tawheed Rububiyyah impeccably.
But I don't think his view upholds Tawheed Rububiyyah.
1 billion% it does. He does not, bro. Respectfully,
because like you're saying, I know he holds.
Have you read in detail thoroughly how he goes into acquisition, how he goes into involuntary versus voluntary, how he symmetries between the Jabriya, how he goes into, let's say, praiseworthy and blameworthy? If you read in retrospect, compared to Ibn Qayyim, who speaks about, it terminates in Allah's hikmah, he does not manage nothing to the level of what this guy has done. And I'm not trying to.
Well, it just seems like. Hold on,
Sola. What was the pressure
points? 5 seconds. It just seems like you're just saying, well, I like his view of Tawheed Rububiyyah. I think you guys don't have a good view. I like his. I don't really care for his view, and I don't see how his view is like motivating. So yeah, even though Al-Ghazali, you can say, well, he wrote many works on this. He tried to preserve this. He tried to motivate this, and it's pretty good. I don't really see why that has any bearing on me. I'm not Ashari.
I'll go in a second. You would be fair to say that a stillman, when it comes to praiseworthy and blameworthy, because you're the doer of the act, right? In retrospect to being external from Allah's essence, you're the doer of the act, right? Now, when you say origination, okay, it's hard to find the way it's been verbalized and qualified by, let's say, a year ago by Umar on this thing. Okay? when you read Ibn Taymiyyah and other things, he uses the word acquisition and the Arabic word. He uses the same Arabic word.
He does
Now,
use
what you
kasab,
guys are-
yeah.
Yeah, what you guys are trying to symmetry from, I completely understand. I know you don't want to verbalize what the Ashri do because you want to verbalize
And
origination
even Ibn
and see
Taymiyyah doesn't
compatibility.
really hold, like, yeah, he doesn't agree with
Brother, he
Um,
uses acquisition on a level
think,
that I've never heard a single
just-
author use it on today.
Because I think I remember the source in the Majma Fatawa. He's talking.
Yeah, we would have to
It's
look at
page 386, where I think he's actually refuting the idea of the Ashari, because he obviously Ibn Taymiyyah believed the Ashari fell into Jabri, the Jabri position.
Yeah.
But he says, for example, if there's no participation from the slave in creating the will, or in the slave's will, then they're not going to be earning a partner in creation. But the Ahlul Sunnah, we're free from this saying, because if there's no influence in the existence of creation, the action is a creation of Allah, and the slave has no participation in that. So he's saying that
even as small as a fly, even when it comes to it being like as small as a fly or as big as I know the quote you're bringing, but I don't see, because I don't believe that we like create our actions in like any way. I believe God is the sole creator, but I don't see how that gets.
But what I was saying is the reason why AP brought this up is because he was trying to say like why Ibn Taymiyyah is probably using this word kasab, because I think the scholars of antiquity don't want to really be talking about creation in any sense. Whereas I know like today you might say secondary creator, and that's okay. Like you've got a different way of, but we've got more tools at our dispense now. Fine, but I think the way Ibn Taymiyyah was saying it, he's using the word kasab is to say, well, there's still a sense of acquisition here, but not in the way that Ashari say it, and that's why he goes on to say what I just said now.
So what do you think is the what's the demarcation between Ibn Taymiyyah's view and Al-Ghazali's view? Because it seems like you're trying to collapse Ibn Taymiyyah's view with Al-Ghazali's view when it comes to this term. Because I don't think that we create our actions. I don't see why.
I know that John Hoover, which I know you guys disagree with, he's strawmans the position, but I know he believes that Ibn Taymiyyah's position like collapsed into Fakhruddin al-Razi's position, or someone like that, because of this very issue of how it didn't seem clear how this idea of kasab was managed, while saying there is some like real intrinsic ability of the agent. Like the two just never seem to be harmonized. It seems
that it seems like me and Uthman are at least trying to make it clear. I mean, you said it yourself that we have more tools at our disposal, and this is how the majority of us Sunnis take it. At least us Atharis, this is how we take it to mean. I mean, it really makes no sense how Ibn Taymiyyah is clearly going against Al-Ghazali.
Well, that's what I think we're discussing today.
Yeah. But see, when it comes to Muhammad as the objective standard, bro, that's another thing I formulated. All right, the pressure and why it bites is because even us Christians, we would say, for example, and this is a big symmetry, God alone is the one that determines the objective standard of morality. Now, the symmetry we have compared to Muhammad is we say Jesus is the embodiment of that standard, right? But Jesus is God to us, bro. We never say that God has externalized the standard into a creature, because this now, you're falling into, let's say, having to affirm hard determinism, not compatibilism. Because how are you going to say that a creature now, Allah has externalized his standard into a creature, thus he's the greatest creature ever made, and he's the greatest creature ever made. Allah has aligned his revelation, his speech with this man's actions. Now, at certain points in time, Muhammad gets special pleading for certain things. And it's either going to be the case that when there's the narration, like in the Sunnah, right, where he's arguing with Aisha, how he spends his time with his wives, right? And Aisha's sitting there to have an argument, Allah brings down the verse. Asbab al-Nuzul, the cause for the verse. Allah says, take who you want, O Prophet, reject who you want, there'll be no blame on you. Now, he's going above and beyond the 4 wives now, right? And right-hand possession, obviously, in times of war. The dilemma hits now when Aisha says, I feel as if your Lord hastens in filling your wishes and your desires. It's either going to be the case, bro, that the Athari are correct and the Ashri are wrong, and that Muhammad's motives and desires are triggering Allah's uncreated speech, and Allah is matching that with, right, the motives and the desires of a creature. That can't be the case, bro, because Allah alone must be the one determining, specifying, decreeing, and willing what Muhammad will do. If that's not the case, and we fall back on what Uthman and Yakavos were discussing before, and it's just on foreknowledge, now is where it bites. Prior to Allah writing what will happen, the writing is not causal, right? Like, as in, why is he writing what he's writing? Okay, is it based on his decree, his will, his specification, and determination alone? Or is Allah looking through the corridors of time, like you guys said, in foreknowledge, at what Muhammad will freely do? And Allah eternally wills to match that. And then, obviously, when Allah wills, he speaks in time, right? Now, what I'm asking you, in that specific narration, who is more correct here? Who is more upon Tawheed? Would it be the Ashri or would it be you? How is Muhammad participating with Allah in any sense the way Uthman said in this specific moment now? Because now we're talking about who's the objective standard. Are you saying that a creature is participating in any sense with what Allah alone decrees, wills, and specifies? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, see, you said I wasn't tracking the pressure points. But I don't think you tracked anything that I said prior, right? This is why I think
Right,
you're bringing up the same points. You're bringing up the same. I can't hear you. But look, I don't think you. To be honest, I don't think you checked what I said because I already responded to the same point that Yakavos was bringing up.
Man, saying I'm not tracking is not going to mean I'm saying I'm not tracking. I'm so well read on this. Okay, I've tried so
No,
many
I mean,
times.
like I already responded to this, right? And you didn't.
I've been. You can't say I've been rude or disrespectful or anything, bro. I've tried my hardest for the sake of God Almighty, bro, to bring you at least closer to Him. You are so far from Him. I'm trying my best, bro, to show you. There's one version of Islam. There's one version of Christianity. You want to be a Muslim, no problem, bro. But understand your commitments. Understand Quran, Sunnah.
Bro, you're kind of just yapping right now.
No,
like,
I'm
look,
not.
I already responded.
Yeah, but
I already responded to this
I
stuff.
don't see how our view can't account for that. I don't think you want to be objective.
Tell me then, brother. I'm asking you. Listen,
But
I'm
I
not
just want you to I'm pretty sure Yakavos. I already responded to Yakavos about this like already. Can you at least tell me what I said? Because I want to see if you're track. Because I already told Yakavos the answer.
Bro, why are you on repeat? Still remember what I said? Repeat what I said. I mean,
because it seems like look, you're saying I wasn't tracking, but you haven't been able to answer
my.
You haven't been able to answer. Like, look, Yakavos and me, we were able to have a linear conversation. If I asked him a question, he was able to answer, and I was able to do the same with him. But it just seems like with you, you're not able to do the same. You're not able to do the same. Because I think it's the only reason why I don't want to. I've already responded to this.
You already alluded to you being.
You don't understand what I'm saying. I don't understand what I'm saying. Sorry, you said God. Okay, why would our actions be costly prior to God's decree? Like, obviously,
I said you alluded to that with what you said earlier, and you don't even realize, bro.
Where?
When he was speaking about what constitutes for the writing, as in what's the sufficient reason as to why this is written, what's the decree based upon? We went through the 4 pillars of Qadar. These are not separate stages, bro. Okay, when he talks about knowledge, writing, will, creation, Allah does not think before He acts. In Quran 28:68, Allah says He creates and chooses.
Bro, you're yapping. Where did I allude to it? Where did I allude that our action is causally prior? Where did I allude to it?
I think there's no point continuing, bro. Respectfully.
Bro, you're just making. Where did I allude to it? Just answer the question. Where did I allude to it?
Bro, you recorded it. Play it back for yourself and critique yourself every point.
This guy is just not engaging. Like Yakavos is able to engage. You just can't engage.
I think
you're not. I don't think you're tracking the conversation in general.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
If you want to be insultive, it's up to you, bro.
One sec. I was just gonna say, boys. I think like because I got to go to the doctor's. I got an appointment in 3 to 4 minutes. I got to leave. And then Apostolic's got to go. If we want, we can just get the clip and we can just go through it later and just like look at the different points that were discussed.
That's fine. We can go over the clip later. But I just want to know where did I allude to it? Like I want Apostolic to answer because he said I alluded to it where I alluded to our actions being causally prior to the decree. Where did I allude to that?
Bro, it's not solely. Oh my God, Uthman.
You said I alluded to that. Come on, don't lie. You literally said that.
Uthman. Is the writing encompassing of everything, or are we just talking about actions? How are you still strongmanning this point of position, bro?
That's what you said.
Due respect for the love of God, bro.
That's what you said, bro. This guy.
When you were talking about the writing, can you please, look, bro? If you want, we'll have another discussion. Play it back. Write down the points you think we did wrong. Write down the points you think you did right.
I don't care about what you. I don't care about. Bro, you made a claim.
You don't care about truth, bro. Do you care about?
You know what I care about? I care about you satisfying your burdens. Can you please show me where I alluded to our action being causally prior to the decree?
We have. I said you alluded to. Do you understand?
Okay, so where in my line of where in my explication did I do that? Just where when I was explicating my view, where did I do that? Tell me which point. You can't answer because you don't know because you're just making sure, like, bro. Respectfully, bro. It seems like you're not tracking a conversation.
I mean,
look, I already answered.
Continuing to say not tracking does not constitute that being truth, bro. Okay, it sounds like you're coping. Now listen to me, bro. We're discussing.
You haven't been able to satisfy any of your burdens.
Uthman, play it back. Get back to us. We can have a discussion again.
Just tell me where I alluded to it. It doesn't have to.
Bro,
look.
I said I had to go so many times, but if I leave, all you guys are gonna do is say, "Oh, he ran. Oh, you guys like, bro." I'm staying here.
No, I won't say you ran.
As I can, bro, because for the love of God, you're making the same images. Yeah, I'm trying.
Look, if you tell me where, if all you do is just tell me where I alluded to it and you leave, I won't say you ran. But if you don't tell me where I alluded to it and you just leave off, then obviously I'm gonna say you ran because you're not telling me where you.
Say whatever you want. It's not gonna affect me, bro. I don't think you noticed that, bro. It doesn't. Nothing affects me. Tomorrow. I'm still gonna attack you after the creed.
That looks bad on you. Look, it just looks bad on you because you haven't been able to say. Like, at least like Yakavos, he's been able to keep it linear. You're just like it just seems like you have a script, but it's the script gone wrong. At least Yakavos was able to keep it linear. He was able to answer questions. I was answering his questions, right? But you're not answering the question. You said you made a claim. You said I alluded to it, and then you said, and then you just started yapping and saying, "Oh, go back, watch back the recording."
Out foreknowledge, bro.
Yo, boys, I really gotta go, but I'll see you guys. I'll see you.
It was good talking to you.
Uthman, I'll see you guys in the war room if you know what I'm talking about.
Take care.
Yeah, no.
I see you, bro. God bless. But Apostolic, you said I alluded to it because I mentioned OD foreknowledge. How does that?
When you're singling out something and we're discussing, right, the commitments, and we're discussing the decree and what the writing is based upon, right? No one is dumb to think, oh, because something is written, the writing is what's causally efficacious. No, we're trying to go back a step. Why is the writing written? Now, you want, and you're trying to avoid participation, association, and partners with Allah. Now, in any sense, there can't be anyone sharing in that. Allah cannot be looking through the corridors of time like Molinism and saying, this creature will freely choose A or not A, and subsequently my decree is based on this. That's what
brother, do you think that, like, in order for us to have, like, you know, free will, we have to be able to do otherwise?
Really extended this.
Okay,
like,
okay,
we can continue. We could, bro. We could
No,
continue.
that's not what he's saying. What he's trying to say is, Sola, he's trying to say that I merely, which is not true, by the way. I didn't merely just say foreknowledge. I made it clear when I was talking to Yakavos. I made it clear, like, we are in virtue of like what it means for God to decree, and you know whether creatures fit this or whether creatures satisfy these given conditions to also be partly, at least partly decreeing our given actions. Me and Yakavos already spoke about this. That's why I wanted him to steal, man. He couldn't, but that's okay. Right? So.
Oh, come on, man, bro. You take shots with someone. Bro, come on, bro. Listen,
I'm not saying Yakavos. I'm not saying Yakavos couldn't steal, man. I'm saying you couldn't steal, man. Yakavos, I didn't ask him to steal anything. Look, I'm talking about you. I'm saying. Okay, look. So basically, what he's just trying to say is that.
Honestly, I've got to go, bro. I've got to go. I'm happy to continue this any other time. If you want to talk in the same manner, I'll talk to you nicely. I have no problem doing that, bro. All right. Look, I'm sure you recorded it. Play back the points in time where you think I repeated something and I didn't repeat, and you'll hear and you'll see. All right, and then go about it from there. Now, you understand the dilemmas to some degree when it comes to, let's say, the Umar ibn Khattab dilemma, or Muhammad is the objective standard dilemma. I don't think I actually have the problems you have because of what we've discussed. If you think you can reconcile them, I'm more than happy to hear how and why, so long as it's in line with Quran, Sunnah, and not violating Tawheed. If you can substantiate that, bro, no problem. Then I'll say to you, you know what? He's like, you guys have reconciled.
I think we have I think we showed how Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, it goes against Al-Ghazali's interpretation, but it doesn't go against at least our reading of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. I don't take Al-Ghazali's
that's why, look, before I go, that's why I said to you, when it comes to Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, right, the way they constitute not violating it, is because from your position of what you try and proclaim the criteria for Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is in secondary causes and all these things, they don't see it that they're doing that, because they don't actually think if they're calling upon someone that person has any intrinsic causal power. They don't think that person is a secondary cause. They don't even think that person is an actor in any sense. They would say Allah alone is the complete and sufficient cause of every and all
things. That's the problem. So they have two problems. They have two problems to deal with. They hold the qasd, and they hold the fact that, you know, they're saying, well, it doesn't really matter if I'm praying to them because they don't have any causal efficacy to attach to my prayers. And now you can see what's the point.
Well, sort of, but they'll say that the person can be used as a means by Allah. Right? They wouldn't say that the person has any power to do anything rather than Allah can use them as a means, right? And that's where the asymmetry break between you. And they're trying to do basically what you're trying to do with uluhiyyah, they're trying to do with rububiyyah. They're trying to keep that intact. So you guys are on opposite ends on these things.
The uluhiyyah is like, because there's like clear verses and there's like, it's pretty clear that you don't call upon him.
The funny thing is that's what I'll say to you guys with other things when it comes to rububiyyah. Look, bro, I gotta go.
That's what they would say, but I mean, they would have to show how our reading.
You have to understand the other person's position, their commitments, and what they're trying to protect themselves from, right? They don't actually think they're wrong. You don't actually think you're wrong. Why do you not think you're wrong? And if you had to still maintain a position to argue
that's an interpretative dispute, though. I mean, you're the one who's trying to, you know, run the Ashari argument.
In reality, bro.
And I don't really.
Bro, you could do the same thing. You do the same thing with us. Listen, it's like this. Before
I understand. When it comes to the Ashari, I understand the interpretation.
Look, with Christianity, you could do the same thing too. There has to be, let's say, obviously from your perspective, it's false, no problem. But there has to be one correct orthodox version of that. Now, what you could do is what I do with you guys. Read up on our literature and say, you know what? One position is utterly correct, even though it's false and not from God. I'm going to disable every other position. That's all I did. That's all I did.
I understand, but you're saying the Ashari's position is on the correct position. You have to like show how we violate Rububiyyah. You can't just say, well, look at what you guys do with Rububiyyah. You say, well, they use, you know.
Yeah, we can go into that further another time, of course. I'm not gonna be able to flesh that out in 2 minutes, and obviously we'll drag this out a little bit. I've got to go as well. But of course, there's no problem discussing these things and showing, for example, positions of scholars and how they are in contrast to each other, and you know, obviously why they're in contrast to each other and what they're both trying to preserve. The last thing, obviously, is there's a few things. Anyway, look, we'll leave it at that for now. We can continue another time, bro. It's not the end of the world. If you guys think you can reconcile, I'm more than happy to hear. Of course, no problem. We'll leave it at that for now. Look,
we'll leave it at that.
Nice talking to you at a different level for once. Look, there's certain individuals of you guys I don't mind, but as a whole, bro, your creed, I don't know, bro. Like it's just always bad experiences, bro. But look, I'll keep it on an individual basis. If you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you, bro. Wallah, that's it. All right, Yami. God bless anyway, and we'll talk another time.